Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. We are going to be reviewing episode 3 of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier today. So if you haven't watched it yet, spoiler warning, 3, 2, 1. Sam and Bucky break Zemo out of prison. What? We open right where we left off last episode with Sam and Bucky going to visit Zemo. They've arrived at the prison where he's being held, and Bucky goes in to chat with him, much to Sam's dismay. And then next thing we know, Sam and Bucky are in this basement. Sam is very much in the dark, literally, as he follows Bucky down into the basement of what we assume to be the prison. We don't know why they're there. And then all of a sudden, Bucky hits Sam with this hypothetical of what they would do to get Zemo out of prison or how Zemo could escape. And we are greeted with this amazing action sequence of Zemo taking control of the prison, breaking out of his cell, stealing a prison guard uniform, and making his way down to the basement where Sam and Bucky are there. He agrees to work with Sam and Bucky to help them find out what's going on with Flagsmashers. What we find out pretty quickly as soon as the boys have Zemo out of prison is that Zemo is straight ballin'. The man is loaded, okay? Private jets, vintage cars, money, and a butler, and like the dude is Tony Stark, Bruce Wayne level rich. It's just that no one knows about it because he's the bad guy and he's been in prison the whole time. I was never the biggest Zemo fan. I mean, obviously he's a villain, and I think he's a good villain, especially in contrast to some of the other MCU villains. Though MCU gets a really bad rap for villains, and I'm not here for that because who is everyone's favorite character in the MCU? Loki. It's a non-negotiable, it's a non-arguable fact. It's just the truth. It really is. It's just the truth. With him being added to the team with Sam and Bucky, we have this scale of closest to Sam to most moral wrong. So we have our reformed villain, Zemo. Then to step back, we have Bucky, who is the Winter Soldier, who has since tried to fix the crimes that he's committed. Then very much farther over, we have Sam, who is very wary of breaking this war criminal out of prison and very wary of doing things Bucky's way, which is very much against the law. However, we are greeted with the reminder that that's something Steve did not shy away from doing, specifically in his Winter Soldier and Civil War days. And then on the very end of the spectrum, we have Steve. At its crux, that's what this show is about. It's about people trying to live up to moral standards of a man who was imperfect but yet is remembered as this symbol of freedom, hope, and justice, making people into symbols, which is discussed in this episode from Zemo's perspective. There's a great conversation about Bucky's notebook, which we saw in the very first episode when we saw his list of people that he's trying to right his wrongs. We get confirmation in this episode that this is the same notebook that Steve carried around following being unfrozen, but that is Bucky's notebook, so it was passed along to him. That gives you all the feels. I really just have to commend the actor that plays Zemo. You really don't know what this guy's motives are the entire time. He seems like he could escape or help them at any given moment in this episode, and I love that tension, especially because we're a little bit more secure in Sam and Bucky's coalition with one another. The whole conversation about the Marvin Gaye Troublemaker album on the plane, hilarious. John Walker, thank goodness, is not in much of this episode. However, what we do see of him is extremely telling to the type of character he is. So we see a scene where John Walker, who is hopelessly a step behind both Sam and Bucky and 2 steps behind the Flagsmashers, and they try to interrogate this man who may or may not have been hiding the Flagsmashers, and he spits on John Walker, and this prompts John Walker to almost freaking kill this man that he's trying to interrogate. And he responds with a line that only jackasses say, which is, "Don't you know who I am?"
Son, just don't.
You will never hear that line come out of the mouth of someone who isn't a complete ass. Just, if you're important enough, John, you shouldn't be having to ask people if they know who you are, because they should just know who you are. Zemo basically says that he knows someone by the name of Selby, who they can use to track down where this serum is coming from. They go to this country called Mandori, which is supposed to be a very lawless island where people kind of just anything goes, really. What I want to say is, even though Sam says he looks like a pimp in his costume, if there is a Funko Pop of him in that suit, you can bet your bottom dollar that I will be buying that Pop Funko because he looked fly in that outfit, okay? I have never seen Sam Wilson look this good, okay? And we've seen him look good before, but this is a whole nother level. Sam is playing some form of money launderer, and Bucky is once again the Winter Soldier. All of it you think is like, oh, he does look kind of out of place now that he's in his James Buchanan Barnes look, but is wearing the Winter Soldier outfit, until he absolutely goes ham on these guys in the bar. And there's also this great bit where Sam has to get his usual drink, and since he's undercover, he has to eat something which has like a snake gut or liver or bone or something in it. It's just such a funny scene because he's trying to throw it back a few times and he just cannot. So they go in to talk to this Selby woman. Sam gets a call from Sarah, which blows their cover, and right as they're about to be murdered, Sharon Carter, who you know is Sharon Carter if you've seen any of the promos because she's got a hoodie on, she's in the darkness, you know that's her. She takes out Selby and helps the guys escape. Then they go to her like art gallery place. Again, a great joke about Sam not being as worldly as the rest of them, who are 106 years old, a former SHIELD operative, and a special ops guy. That Sam is just Sam from Louisiana who went into the military and lives in DC. So Sharon Carter, like I said, saves the day, but she is a very different Sharon Carter than we knew before. Before, she was this very clean-cut, straight-up agent, but she has since been kind of disillusioned with the states and the government because of her involvement in Civil War. She stole Cap's shield and Sam's wings when they were fighting in Germany in Civil War, and because of that, she took a lot of heat. And I love this continued through line throughout this series of people doing what you would think are moral rights, but that the law is not always the same as what is morally right or what these characters are fighting for. Sharon is with them when they go to interrogate a scientist who we find out is the man who was creating the super soldier serum. Basically, the scientist was kicked out of the CIA, came to Mandori, where the power broker, who is who the episode is named after, but who we yet to have found out who he is. He has sponsored this project of the super soldier serum. Zemo kills the scientist and bounty hunters start to attack, which Sharon helps them out. They all fight these guys off, and then Sharon basically says, I'm gonna stay behind in Mandori, but let me know when you get me that pardon, Sam. And so they go their separate ways. I hope we see Sharon Carter again later in the series. Again, like I said, with Isaiah, kind of want a pardon for this girl, but at the same time, things don't always work like that in the MCU. I'm feeling kind of ambivalent towards the Flagsmashers. We see Carly try to help refugees in this episode, as well as blowing up a GRC building. And I think I'm kind of just confused if Marvel wants us to sympathize with Carly or if we're supposed to dislike her. And I get it, all these issues are supposed to have complexities because the show is kind of highly geopolitical. Anyway, so just a slight critique of the episode. I don't like to be too picky about my Marvel stuff, but I do like to be open and honest with you guys. And I think that's the one thing I'm wondering at this point in the series is, who's the big bad? Is both the government and the Flagsmashers that people were supposed to dislike? Does Carly actually want to do good? Is she going to join the Avengers? Like, I just don't really know where we're going with that. So once Zemo, Sam, and Bucky have kind of escaped the bounty hunter situation, they fly to an undisclosed location. We see Bucky pick up this bead off the floor. And I was like, okay, Bucky, are we going to make friendship bracelets for you and Sam now? Like, that's really sweet. We don't really have time for that. But we turn around and we see Bucky in an alleyway with one of the Wakandan Royal Guard. And you hear the awesome like drums of the Wakandan theme and of the Black Panther theme, and it is so exciting to see a new character be introduced from Wakanda. And I'm wondering now if this is going to be a tie-in to Black Panther 2, or potentially a tie-in to the Wakandan show that's going to be coming on Disney Plus that Ryan Coogler has announced. I'll link an article about that down below. What I loved about this reveal at the end was that there were several references to the fact that Zemo killed King T'Chaka, who is King T'Challa's father, and different references to vibranium or any sort of thing within this episode. I thought that was a great bit of writing to lead you into something you didn't even know you were headed for. You thought this was just references within the world to remind you that, yeah, that's like where this stuff comes from. But then for the reveal to be what it was at the end of the episode, it was such great writing. So major props to the writers on that. That's where the episode leaves us. I will say this episode is not my favorite of the 3. I think that award will go to episode 2 for now. However, I really like the continual progression of this series. I think the episodes are extremely well paced. I love that we're getting all this content each week, and I like seeing the guys travel, and I love Zemo now. That's gonna be all for this episode recap. What did you guys think? Please let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this, giving you recommendations, reviews, and recaps of all your favorite TV show and movies, and basically just nerdy content. That's what I specialize in. And I will see you guys in my very next video. Bye, everyone.